Hello everyone, Jeff and Jay here with another edition of Jay's Big Adventure. Jay's Fuzzy Guy, and today we are back at our workshop working on a 1972 MG MGB. We bought it last week, ran it through the emissions control testing, and it failed pretty spectacularly. The hydrocarbons were 3,500, the maximum allowable limit is 700. And the carbon monoxide was at 5.2 and 5.6. They measure both at idle and at 2,500 RPM. But it was 5.0 for the limit, so we were over there as well. Now the good news is the car ran like crap. There were a bunch of hoses that were disconnected. The carbs didn't open at the same time. This is a twin SU carburetor system. There's a single throttle cable and then a bar that lifts both carburetors at the same time, or it is supposed to. This was only lifting one until almost 1,500 RPM. So there's a bunch wrong. I have no idea if it had been adjusted for the altitude. This car does have idle mixture screws that you can get to, which is a good thing. So we thought, you know what, we'll just go back and just by ear try to set this up and see whether it'll pass. Today's project is to try to get this thing to run a little more smoothly. As you can see at idle, it's really bouncing around. Idle's also pretty high, about 1,500. I've got the choke out, but I want it to be even a little slower than that on the choke. And one of the things that I realized when I opened the hood is that this line is vented to atmosphere. And this line is vented to atmosphere. This goes directly to the carburetor. So if I plug this, it automatically runs better. Well, my guess is this is part of the positive crankcase ventilation, and that hose is supposed to go in here. So we're going to connect that, let the car warm up, and see if we can adjust the idle to make it run a little bit better. Okay, so we've got it warmed up. It's still not idling very smoothly, but I did get the hoses reconnected, so at least now we're not dumping raw crankcase fumes to the atmosphere. But the other thing that I noticed, and I don't know if we're going to be able to see this with me holding the camera, but when I pull the throttle cable, there's a single cable that lifts this bar, and that then rotates the throttle on each carb. When I pull this side lifts before that side does. Well, obviously then the carbs can't be synced, because when I lift the throttle, this one moves after the right one does. So obviously the car's not going to run well if one carb opens before the other one does. So we're going to loosen these lock nuts and see if we can adjust the carb linkages so that they both open at the same time. So we still don't have the car running the way it should. So the next step is going to be to remove these 4 bolts to remove the air cleaners and see if we can find the mixture screws on the carbs. With the air cleaners removed, we can easily get to the idle mixture screws, which are right here on the outside of each carburetor. One there and one there. So now let's start the car up and see how we're doing. And already I can see that this slide is higher than this slide, which is a good indication that once we get all this stuff straightened out, the car will run and idle a lot better. What we're doing is we're just searching for the highest idle speed. Okay, now let's try this one. Oh, really? Come on. That was a quarter, not even a quarter, that's like an eighth of a turn. Now let's adjust the mixture, the idle speed again. After a bunch of time fiddling and playing with the idle mixture screws and the idle speed screws, I've got it running pretty well. It's smooth. Idle's a little higher than I want, but if it goes too low, it bogs down. I think that's just because the carbs need to be rebuilt. But if it'll pass the emissions test, that's my main concern. So I think it's pretty easy to make a car run at wide open throttle. That's not that difficult. Where it really matters is down low at low RPMs and at low throttle openings, where you spend most of your time. When you're sitting at a stoplight and the light turns green, that's really where it matters. Is the car going to carburate properly, or fuel inject in the modern cars, I guess, but is it going to fuel properly to let you leave that stop sign without the car stalling on you? Obviously that can be really embarrassing and really dangerous. So this is a perfect example. We're going up a hill, and when I let the clutch out a little bit, I want that engine to run cleanly and deliver the power accurately so that I can leave without either stalling the car or chirping the tires. And man, what a difference. It runs so much better. One of the big things was it was really choppy. You could definitely tell that, you know, all the cylinders were not firing at the same rate. With a 2-carb car, it's pretty common that one side doesn't run as well as the other side does. And you can tell you get a lot of thump, 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 thump in the exhaust. And now the exhaust is really clean. It's very smooth. The tonal quality is a lot better, and that is just an indication that we've got the carburation pretty close. I'm sure if I had, you know, the proper tools, that I could make it a little bit better, but it seems to run just fine. So now the question is going to be, when we take it to the shop tomorrow, will it pass the Utah state emissions? And so we are currently driving around Sugar House Park, which is part of Salt Lake City. And it is right up against the base of the mountains. The colors are at just past peak. And it is one beautiful day here in Salt Lake City. And this is kind of what this car is all about. I mean, Europe and Britain in particular, you know, little windy 2-lane back roads. You're not going terribly fast. And this car just was built for this kind of road. It's really nice. Don't have to go terribly fast. But it's a little windy and it works great. And now we just have a great big diesel truck in front of us that is the size of a house. But that's just the way it goes. But anyway, it actually seems to run really well. So I think we are going to take it back to the shop, see if we can get the steering wheel changed and maybe get the lights in it. And then tomorrow we'll take it to the emissions shop and see how it does. It runs so much better. The mid-range is there, you know, off idle is spot on. I really thought it was going to make a big improvement. I was, of course, wrong. What I do know is that to find out, we're going to have to take the carbs off the car and take them apart. I've got an ultrasonic cleaner. We will clean the carbs, put them all back together, set everything back to spec, and try again. In the meantime, we're going to change the oil, because I have no idea how old that is, and also adjust the valves. Hopefully with all that stuff done, this car will finally pass emissions. So that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, please share, please subscribe, and we'll have more videos out soon.